Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here at GLMR. I'd like to say Glamour, but it's actually Moonbeam. So just so you know, this is pumping very hard, mainly because we have this upcoming fundamental catalyst, for lack of better terms. Binance Future is going to launch this coin here as a perpetual up to 10x leverage on essentially Binance perpetual futures. So that's going to be at 1:30 UTC on September 26th, which is roughly 6:30 p.m. Pacific on the 25th here today. So just keep that in mind. That's coming up here. That is a fundamental catalyst. We're going to take a look at the technical analysis and kind of see what's going on here as well, what we can kind of bank on with previous support and resistance levels. But in truth, a lot of this is subject to what happens with that. There's a great chance it'll sustain its price point and potentially go higher based on this tremendous amount of volume coming into this coin. But you got to recognize too, if the volume starts to dissipate, it'll change this situation here a lot. So just keep that in mind. But for lack of better terms, this kind of heads up on what's going to happen with that. Also, keep in mind too that we got some really awesome stuff going on with our premium group here. So just again, congrats to our current community members for a 40% 5x leverage trade. That was a short for Frontier last night at about 56 minutes. But then we also got Phoenix short for 20% in one day. So we took a couple of shorts, of course. We got some longs too. I think Terra Classic, we got some longs open and still actually doing pretty well, honestly. What was it? I think our favorite one was Blue Zell, 163% in 10 days. That was awesome. So again, just congrats to our community members for some massive, awesome profits. You want to be part of something greater? CryptoCash.tech is a site, link down below, where you can be part of that group. Obviously, we're Discord, Telegram, and Twitter communities are growing as well. Greatly appreciate that. If you want playout charts, etc., they're all available here, so you can kind of see that on pretty much any channel, whichever platform works best for you. So let's talk about this. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the daily and work our way down because we want to kind of understand where we're at here in the overall sense of things. Now, what I mean by that is volume is going to be something we want to pay attention to. We have a decent amount of volume down here as a foundation the last few days, basically last week or so. That's not super important, but that's still a good foundation. One thing we want to recognize, though, when talking about support and resistance levels, is the fact that we have this major resistance shelf here, right at about 24 cents. So keep in mind, that's going to be a strong resistance level, and the probability of breaking through that today is less. Again, depending on how the whole thing rolls out with Binance perpetual futures, of course, that'll create a lot more volatility. Generally speaking, this should work as a resistance level initially. A lot of times what you see is like a cup and type handle pattern form eventually with this here. It's too early to tell with this large amount of volume, but just know that's going to be a key level resistance. We can also kind of go with a larger time frame, basically Fibonacci retracement level, kind of see roughly where we're at here. And again, this 0.5, 0.618, the halfway point, is a very common retracement range. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's roughly what we're looking at there. If we take a look at, of course, a few other key factors, our size overextended, you'd expect it to pull back, but it doesn't mean it's going to. Okay, so please recognize that these fundamental catalysts have a tendency of pushing the price action in the same direction for some time. This is kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news thing. Had you bought the rumor earlier, you probably would have been in pretty good shape right now. But you don't necessarily just need to sell because it happened already, but there's a good chance we could see a pullback because of that. Okay, so again, I know it's 6 to 1, half a dozen the others. Like, oh gosh, he's basically saying two different things. But in truth, you never truly know when these things are combining. Typically, when it's just straight up fundamental catalyst, that's the case. But this coin does look like it's been due for a correction for some time. So we'll talk about that. And obviously, let's look at some chart patterns actually on the 4-hour. So I think it's important to recognize this here. Okay, so we've established on the daily here, just before we move on, that we've broken this descending trend. You can kind of see that here, right? Where this descending trend is effectively broken to the upside. So we've broken above the 50-day SMA. That's a very strong start. Secondary to that, though, we want to get above the 200-day SMA. And this is the biggest one here. Oftentimes, that's a difficult one to surpass because you can usually see it works as a strong resistance level. So this is one of the first times it's been tested in months. So we can expect it to reject, which it kind of already has, even though we didn't truly get up there that high. So what I'm getting at here is if the price does continue higher, we got to respect the fact that that level right there at 0.786, maybe about 27 cents, will be a strong resistance level if we break through this initial rejection level at 24. Okay, so I want to see a good consolidation effort at 24 plus, and then we can expect a leg up to surpass 27 cents. But for right now, again, it's still kind of early to tell. But as we work our way down the charts, we can kind of see the RSI is starting to calm down a little bit. Still over 70, still overextended, but it's still premature and early. We take a look at the moving averages. We're above all three. Of course, that's standard when you have such a strong push up on smaller time frames. And generally speaking, this is a situation where you kind of want to avoid it. If you're in profit, consider taking some profit or let it ride, depending on your overall position size. That being said, though, I do not recommend shorting at this level because you can see it's maintained this price point for the last almost 24 hours and it's done very, very well for itself. Actually, it's more like 12 hours, but in the last 12 hours, it continues to work its way up, and this is somewhat of an ascending trend, right? So as it continues to work its way sideways, probability to break up is higher than lower because of the fact that we're keep retesting that volume resistance, okay? So again, good stuff there in that sense. If we take a look at, to say, a chart pattern here, we saw a double bottom and a falling wedge, and this is a breakout. I wouldn't say because of this is more of a fundamental catalyst, but it's still standard for most coins to do this when they hit that lower low scenario and then coupled with a double bottom. It's almost always a breakout to the upside. Take a look at the 1 hour. Let's go ahead and wrap this up here for you, just so we don't get too wordy here. We want to take a look at a couple things here. The Ichimoku cloud is going to be off a little bit, of course, because it's just a massive spike and it's consolidated. But the thing we want to take away here is, coincidentally, the Ichimoku cloud is consolidating itself lower there at 0.618 to 0.5 Fibonacci. And that's a key level there. So long story short, if we can maintain a price point in this range, there's a much stronger likelihood of the price breaking up than down. If the price in the next 24 to 48 hours starts to come down here to test that 21.5 cent mark, then we might see more likelihood of potential for downside. Okay, so I'm looking really for a candlestick closure here today at 23 to 24, and then there's more likelihood of a push up from here. I do feel like we're going to see another push higher based on that perpetual futures contract coming out for Binance. That's pretty standard. A lot of times you see that occur. Just bear in mind, money can be pulled from spot in a lot of cases to be put over to perpetual futures. Just depends on, again, the trader. But generally speaking, at this point here, I would say mostly green light to leave your position open. I would urge you not to consider a short right away, even though it seems very juicy. There's tons of value and liquidity here. If you look at the 4 hour, for example, there's a big fair value gap. So there is an inevitability of that potentially getting filled. You got to recognize that could actually occur. I just think it's too premature to consider that, especially with us continuously retesting these higher highs and putting us in a position where the probability of a break up makes more sense than a breakdown. Okay, so we're like 60-70% more likelihood of further upside than we are downside at this given time. Just know there's a lot of value there, a lot of meat left on the bone, but the price could very well wick down there at some point. All the more reason to be very cautious and careful with your position sizing. Please use low leverage and low position sizing once this becomes available for you. And obviously, just in general, be cautious and careful out there. So that's kind of where we're at there. Thanks again so much to my community members here for requesting I cover this. This was a coin that was requested here from a little bit more recently. And I greatly appreciate that, because I think we were talking about it here in our general chat. Yeah, see. Everyone's kind of curious about this this Moonbeam here, so we'll see what happens. Comment below if you got any questions, or more importantly, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to go up, down, sideways? Where do you think we're going to go from here? Let me know on Twitter, Telegram, or Discord as well if that's an easier medium for you. Okay. Look forward to work with you though. Either way, greatly appreciate you watching. Have yourself a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.